Well, here we are.
We just keep coming back.
Despite the fact that this many episodes in, we only had 7 seconds of dead air for our entire best of episode.
Yeah, I was really upset by that episode because I think it left some of our best stuff on the cutting room floor. I think the crack research team needed to put a little more elbow grease into it, Lou.
Well, I think there are crack researchers available that aren't on that staff yet. I'm sure we could find some.
And if you want a crack researcher, go to crackresearch.com. Wait. No, don't do that. Oh, man.
We do mention a lot of URLs without previously previewing them.
Yeah, it's become kind of a bit on the show. We'll put the crack research team on this. No, in fact, no, we won't. I don't want to violate the terms of my Apple user agreement.
And
I mean theirs, not mine.
Let's not put that in their browser history. But what we should put in people's browser history is visits to hotloo.com and 5-star ratings for the Hot Lou Show.
That's out of 5 stars. If somehow your app allows you to rate us up to 10 stars, for example, then I'd like all 10.
We could use the help because maybe they could split those that one 10-star rating into 2 5-star reviews.
Wait, what? No, because then that would reduce our app. You're the math major.
Oh, gosh.
This is terrible. You've just given very bad advice, and the lunatics are not used to that from you, especially not on Hump Day Eve.
I feel like this is Paul Freshel's fault. My professor /
celebrity listener, Paul Freschel.
Paul, if you're listening, let's set up a racquetball game and talk about how I just screwed up, I think, the intermediate value theorem. So look that up.
Yep. We're all familiar with that.
This seems like a good time to introduce the show. Welcome to the Hot Lou Show. I am your host, Lou Abramowski, or somewhat charitably referred to as Hot Lou.
And I am aspiring podcast sidekick, Mike Franklin. Someday, Lou, I hope to be a podcast sidekick.
You're not giving yourself enough credit. You've aspired in the past, but I think in the present and future, you're an accomplished podcast sidekick.
Oh. Well, that's exciting. I'm out of here.
Did I lose a little bit of conviction at the end there? Anyway, this is a pretty special episode because we have 2 very special guests.
We do.
So without further ado, or whatever we call this rambling introduction, I want to introduce the mother-daughter founder combo of a nonprofit based in Minnesota called Simon Says Give. So, Mandi Simon, do you want to say hi?
Hi.
And her mother, Dina Simon.
Hello.
So, for a very brief intro, and then I'll have you guys talk a little bit too. But Dina and I have known each other for about 7 years, which I met Mandi shortly after that. We were working on a project related to a topic we talk about probably too much on this show.
Camels? Is it camels?
It was camels. Believe it or not, there was an incredible business market for camels back in 2012 or 13 or whatever.
We're all aware of when the camel-derived security market crashed and left everybody with their 401cs.
Yeah, and if you're not aware of it, I'm sure it will be at hotloo.com/dromedary. Look it up. So, I'll let Mandi kind of tell it in her own words, and maybe even Dina too, but Simon Says Give is a nonprofit, and I am the vice chair on it. And, Mandi, when she just recently turned 16, so #Prime, or happy birthday. I say #Prime to wish people happy birthday on Facebook. But when she was it's almost been 10 years. It's creeping up on this. But do you want to talk a little bit about how Simon Says Give was started?
Sure. So it was almost 10 years ago. So it was 9 years ago, right around then. And it was the right around my 8th birthday. Before then, so I was still 7, and I had this idea of wanting to help kids, and I wasn't sure how or even where to begin. I just knew I wanted to help kids, and so I
And you
presented.
were a kid yourself.
Yeah, I was 7, so I was really young, and I presented the idea to my mom, and I just kept talking about it and bugging her for like a month or 2 months or however long. But I just kept bugging her. And by the time I was 8, we decided that it was something that we wanted to pursue.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, I want to read this introduction because on a recent episode of the Hot Lou Show, we talked about my colorful introductions. And I've had the pleasure of introducing Dina to lots and lots of different people. And with the colorful introductions that I do, I often actually really look forward to introducing Dina because I could kind of probably write a book about her. She, in the most brief introduction I can do for her, I often call her the most unstoppable force in the universe and have for years. And we're going to talk a little bit about what the word unstoppable means to her in a little bit. But from one of my many, many introduction emails that I sent introducing another colleague to Dina, I said, "Meet Dina Simon. I know it seems like a bizarre coincidence to you that Simon Says Give is led by a mother-daughter team with the Simon surname, but the universe just works that way sometimes. That said, Dina is the most unstoppable force of nature in said universe that I've met. It's worth noting that her family also throws an incredible Festivus celebration and is just all around an amazing trio to be associated with." And hopefully from that introduction, and in the recent episode where I talked about my introductions, I said how hyperbolic I can be in these introductions, but I feel like I never do it justice when I'm introducing Dina.
Aww.
And the story that Mandy's talking about here is really a super good example of that because, and I'll let you tell the story in your own words here, but as I recall, after her daughter had been kind of pestering her, "Hey, I want to do this. I want to do this." I think a lot of parents would be like, pat on the head, that's cute. And I see my co-host here kind of nodding his head.
As the father of a current 7-year-old who's never bothered me for anything that would help anyone but said 7-year-old, I'm feeling A, like a failure as a parent, and B, I would probably behave just as Lou is talking. I'm like, oh, that's delightful.
Yeah.
Here's a Lego. In fact, here, I'll just wave it in front of his face and throw it.
And maybe Dina was kind of waiting for it to pass, but because it didn't, and Mandy was so determined, Dina's response at that point, if I remember, and hopefully you'll either correct me or expand on it, your response was, "Let's put a business plan together." And that's the way you responded to a then 7-year-old.
Yeah, and actually, Mandy, you more or less presented your business plan. So, I mean, she really was passionate and she was driving it. And that was really where I was like, okay, you mean business. We need to listen and help move you forward. And so we did try to find other nonprofits at the time that we could partner with, but you were so passionate about how you wanted to help kids at that time. And all the other nonprofits were like, hey, if you really want to support Mandy and this dream and her vision, it sounds like you might be starting your own nonprofit, which is then, of course, what we ended up doing.
Yeah. And man, I mean, I'm truly, really grateful to be a part of it because what we haven't really talked about is the way that Simon Says Give helps kids. And, I'd say there's kind of two primary ways that that we help them now. And I'll let kind of Mandy talk about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have 2 different ways that we help kids in need. We do birthdays in either 2 different ways, celebrations somewhere, or we usually do birthdays in a box, which is all of the supplies that they need. And we also do a gift for fun and a gift in need. And then we usually give those to homeless shelters, or sometimes we'll give them to families so they can celebrate at their houses or at a place where they want to celebrate. So we usually do those, and then we also do High Five for Supplies, which is our backpack and school supplies drive.
Right, because, and again, add some color to this if I've got any of the details wrong, but the foundation of, or the I guess, original seed for High Five for Supplies was that you were throwing birthday parties for all these other kids, and your birthday happens to just be right before the school year. So there's this opportunity for a potential celebration kind of in your honor.
Yeah. So that's exactly how it started. It was at one of our board meetings, and one of our board members mentioned it, and they were kind of like, oh, like you have a summer birthday, August birthday, back to school time. Since we're focused on birthdays, let's continue to focus on birthdays, and let's focus on your birthday and do a backpack and school supplies drive. So we really ran with it from there and just kind of started a whole nother section like of our nonprofit.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. So you did audit the sort of nonprofit universe and determined either was it more of a need-based thing that there was a need that wasn't being met, or was it really just that there wasn't a good match, or a little bit of both?
Yeah, a little bit of both, but Mandi was so specific. She wanted to raise money. She had ideas on how she wanted to support kids. And so if she was to do a fundraiser for another nonprofit, we have to give the money back to that nonprofit.
Sure.
She might be able to say, put this in whatever fund, but then they get to do what they want to with it. And at 8 years old, she wanted a little bit more control. So her title is Founder and Chief Charity Officer. And so in that Chief Charity Officer, anytime we make decisions, so even with the backpacks or other things that we choose to do, we really want her to be able to help make those decisions if it's in alignment with what she wants to do with her nonprofit.
Wow.
Yeah, it's awesome. And we'll get a little bit more into in a little bit, like what started out as just this idea in a kitchen, and where it is the last couple years have just been insane.
They have.
I tell people all the time, and we just had this recent episode about how 90% of the emails coming in your inbox are just like so disposable that every time one comes up from Dina, it's just like the highlight of my day, because there's just amazing news that I never would have seen coming all the time. And we'll talk about a bunch of the things that have happened over the last 2 years here. But one thing I wanted to mention regarding this school supplies is the most recent High Five for Supplies. How many backpacks did we pack?
Over 8,000.
Gosh, and this is all through contributions from people giving the supplies. Is there a recommended supply list? I should know. So people can come with a fully stocked backpack and.
Yeah, so we have a lot of corporate partners that donate money that we then go and purchase with bulk purchasing price and power. And then we do have companies that absolutely do drives within their organization. They've got a bin where people put backpacks and school supplies. And we have recommended the standards as far as papers and pens and folders and glue sticks and crayons for the little ones and calculators for the big ones.
Right.
And,
Well, we're all getting those lists right now.
Yep.
I mean, and actually, I just went to a wedding where in lieu of
there
gifts,
it is.
Yeah.
I saw that one coming.
There was a request. It was not through Simon Says Give, but
Yeah.
it was just a request to bring a fully stocked backpack
Absolutely.
for kids in need. This
Yep.
was elsewhere in Minnesota, but I thought it was an awesome thing.
Yeah.
Not having always had the privilege to be able to provide that
Right.
for my kids.
Yeah, we've had grandmas call saying, I'm taking my grandson to go get his backpack and school supplies, and can we just mirror what we're doing for him and deliver a backpack? And every single one counts.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And
Yeah.
8,000, that's amazing.
Yeah, and they got all packed in 4.5, 5 hours, maybe.
Yeah, we
Maybe
did.
A little
So
bit more?
we did a little. We stretched it out a
Yeah.
little bit this time.
It's funny because one of the problems that we have is almost too many volunteers.
and going too fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about in a minute
Okay.
here, because there's there's some interesting stories around that. But I'm proud of countless things with Simon Says Give, but two of the things that, I think Dina knows what I'm about to say here, but one of them is that I don't know what our most recent number is, but we've had several years where it's been something in the neighborhood of 92 cents out of every dollar donated to Simon Says Give reaches a kid in need. Yep. And for those listening who are not familiar with this, that is an astonishing number.
Right.
It's not, I don't think it's an impressive number. It is like jaw-dropping.
Yeah, I think we're all familiar with recent examples of nonprofits that have made the news where that's not the case.
Yeah.
Typically, it's 80% goes to overhead and 20% actually goes to those that are being served by most nonprofits.
Wow.
It's kind of an average. And we're absolutely the opposite, where, it's at least 92 cents actually goes to the kids we serve. We have such small overhead in what we do.
Sure.
Yeah,
Wow.
and that's not to say that we haven't had opportunities to turn into a more, I would say, traditional nonprofit where a lot of the money being raised is going to, rent.
Yep.
It's going to marketing costs. It's going to executive salaries, these types of things that don't end up reaching the actually beneficiaries of the nonprofit. So that's definitely one thing that I'm proud of. And the last 2 years after High Five for Supplies from the backpack drive, I've been able to fill up my vehicle with backpacks filled with school supplies that, and Mike, I don't know if you even know this, but growing up, my family couldn't afford a lot of the school supplies that I needed. And there was a specific department in my elementary and middle school that made it possible for me to just walk in, pick up school supplies. And the last 2 years, and this year was kind of funny because last year I put 100 backpacks in my vehicle and there was so much room. I was like regretting not putting more in there. So this year I did 150. I was lucky to get out of the mall.
They add up.
And I was able to donate to the exact program that gave me the school supplies to get me here today, which is a world famous podcast host.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
so awesome.
Galactically famous, as far as you know.
As far as I know. I mean, I don't know when people are listening.
Well, there's a whole thing. And you could just go to hotlou.com/Luxicon. You'll understand. We're really loose with temporal rules around here.
I thought you were going to go to hotlou.com/Galactica. But
I don't recommend it.
yeah, by the time you're listening to this, we might have expanded out
might,
to
yeah.
other universes for all I know. But the point being that, all of you listening to this podcast may not have been able to listen to it if not for this program. And maybe by the time you're listening, there's a bunch of little mini lunatics out there that benefited from the High Five for Supplies backpack drive that I got to donate back into. So, with that kind of long and detailed introduction, I want to talk about where we're at today. We talked in one detail. Yeah, this year we packed over 8,000 backpacks. But I'd say the really big event that we did was a couple years ago at Mall of America. And maybe, Mandi, do you want to talk about it?
Which one?
I'm talking about the birthday celebration.
Okay, I was like, we have two.
Yeah.
So 3 years ago now, we did a birthday celebration.
Was it 3?
Yeah, because last
17?
year was backpacks. This year was backpacks. Year before that was when we started with the
Birthdays. Oh, yeah. So, yep, you're right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Gosh, it doesn't seem like that. Yeah, but time
Right,
flies.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 3 years ago, we did, the Mall of America was turning 25, and we were turning 5 as an organization with Simon Says Give. And so they reached out to us, and we responded, and we were like, yes. Like, we, of course, will be involved in anything that you want us to be involved in. And we had the idea, and they told us to think big, and we thought really, really big, and then we kind of had to scale it down a little bit because we were kind of like, let's not get out of hand here. So we...
For an organization with effectively 0 employees,
yeah.
to be partnering with what I think is described as the biggest tourist attraction in the United States, which is saying something,
Yeah.
considering you've got, Walt Disney World and all these other things. And they're reaching out to us with a small office in Egan saying, we would like you guys to be our nonprofit partner and think big.
Wow.
And at that point, the biggest thing that we had done at that point was one event a year packing backpacks.
Yeah.
And now...
Yeah, and so they asked us to do something, and we kind of thought about it, and we were thinking, and we were like, well, we could do High Five for Supplies, or we could do something different. And so we decided on doing something different, and we decided that we were going to do birthdays in a box. So we were going to have an assembly line with all of the items that go into a birthday box, and that's what we were going to do at the Mall of America because it revolved around birthdays, and we really wanted to keep it centered on birthdays, even though High Five for Supplies is around birthdays. We decided that we want to make it solely birthdays. And so we decided on that, and we decided to do 2,500 birthdays in a box. at the Mall of America.
In one day.
And one day it was awesome.
Yeah.
Just a real practical question. What do you do with them after they're created? Do you have a warehouse? Do you have a...
No. Great question.
Yeah.
We have a really small office, and then our landlord let us use an extra space that was available that hadn't been rented out to anyone else. And so we used that office space too.
Or overflow, yep.
Yeah, we just kind of shoved all
And then
of
as
them in
the
there.
requests come in and you...
Well, so
we had a lot of we did almost the same exact model that we used for High Five for supplies, but for the birthdays. And so it was that nonprofits were coming to pick up the birthdays in a box, and then I think we had something like 100 or some extra that we wanted to keep for ourselves for our individual families that we celebrate with. And so those went back to our office, and then all the other ones went out. I don't even remember if it was that day or like that week, because it all just kind of gets blurred in all of our events.
I know. It happened pretty fast. They came and picked them up, but maybe within 2 days they're out of the mall. Yep.
I can't remember, but it was really soon after the event, and they all came and picked up all their boxes, and then they got them to their spaces, and then they celebrated their kids that they have too.
Wow.
Yeah, it's worth noting, too, that the Mall of America could not be a more amazing partner for this.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about a gigantic volume of boxes. So Mike's practical question really makes a lot of sense because, our normal birthdays in a box, they aren't small, but they weren't as big as what we did with Mall of America because, rightfully, Mall of America was like, let's, make every one of these boxes special and branded and make it feel like a really big event. So they were large, branded boxes. And like Mandy's saying, like we tried to ship out as many as we could, but, Mandy's best friend at the mall, Russ, right?
Yeah.
Is very accommodating to make it happen if we need extra time or extra space in a space that is literally in high demand for
every store in the mall.
Every store in the mall.
Yeah.
Not only every store in the mall, like all of their partners, like nationally, all over the place.
Yeah.
So, they bend over backwards to make this tiny little nonprofit that's, in my opinion, doing really amazing things in a way that, feels like incredibly impactful for every single person that's involved.
Yeah, and so with the boxes, cake mix, frosting, goodie bags, a gift in need, a gift for fun. So some of
fidget
the
spinners
from Games by James donated the fidget spinners. General Mills, Pillsbury had cake mix and frosting. There were just so many things that came, and so from the donation perspective, we set out to do it, and it just magically happened. So I think that's where the unstoppable nature is. You just each day you keep moving fast forward, and people get excited about it. They want to be a part of it. How can we help you? The Mall of America is obviously a world-class partner. You could not ask for a better partner, as you said, Lou. So just that opportunity to celebrate their birthday, our birthday. It was a tremendous amount of fun, and then it set us up for success for many years of partnership to follow.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, how are you, Lou?
I'm doing great. What day is it?
What's Lou's Day?
Lou's Day. My favorite day, but I have a very close second.
Yeah, really? Because Lou's Day used to be my favorite day, and now Lou's Day is my very close second.
All right, let's say what our second favorite day is.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Hump Day. Wow!
What?
The only thing that's wrong with Hump Day is that it can't be every day.
It only comes once a week. It seems unfair.
Yeah, and if you are confused about the different kinds of camels, like dromedary or Bactrian, or the elusive and genetically offensive hybrid, then you too can celebrate Hump Day every day, whether it be a Lou's Day, a Thursday, the terrible Saturday, or any other day.
When I'm waiting for Hump Day to come around, Saturday is just miserable because it's like halfway away from the last Hump Day and only halfway to the next one.
Yep. The camels featured on this page, Lou, range in all the different variations of camels. They're in different pictures. One of them appears to be in mid-spit.
Wait a minute. What page are you talking about?
Oh, it's called Every Day is Hump Day.
What? There's a page on Facebook dedicated to Hump Day?
Yep, and you can participate with all your favorite humpy friends talking about these delicious camels and all the things they contribute to our universe, Lou.
Wow, I'm on it right now, and this is fascinating because some of the camels are dromedary, some of them are Bactrian.
And there's that one hybrid on there that needs to go away now.
Well, we'll talk to the admin of that who is clearly using evergreen software to ensure that it publishes every single day.
Well, fabulous. You owe it to yourself and to all your humped friends, one hump or two, to go to Every Day is Hump Day.
I have to mention, it was really interesting being in the early meetings with Mall of America because I don't think any of us even really had any sense of what was like about to happen. For Simon Says Give. We didn't realize that we were not only setting ourselves up for an event like I bet the work that went into that first event probably eclipsed what we had done up until in the previous 4 years, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And certainly because that year we ended up with nearly $1 million in donations. Right?
Yeah, because we had we did the birthday celebration, and we also had a high five for supplies, all within within one week period of time. So it was crazy. So we impacted like 50,000 children within 2 weeks period of time.
Yeah, and like I said, think about those numbers. We're talking about over 90 cents out of every dollar reaching a kid in need. So it was very special. And, sitting in the meetings early on with Mall of America, we didn't realize that A, those events would happen, or B, what happened the following year.
Yeah, exactly. It was crazy. Everything just kind of happened. And after we had finished the birthday celebration and high five for supplies of that year, the Mall of America was like, oh, let's do a recap meeting. And we're like, okay, perfect. Like, we'll just go talk to them, like, just talk about them, like, what happened. Because we weren't even sure what was going to happen because we had never done anything like this before because high five, the way it was scheduled, it was at a high school in a gym and it took place over 4 days. And this event was 1 day. So we didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into. And they asked us back for a recap, and we went in, and we had our meeting, and it was all good. And then at the end, they're like, so next year, we're going to do it next year, right? And they're like, we're going to do something different. We're going to do backpacks and school supplies. We're going to do that next year. And we're kind of like, okay, like, of course they'll come back.
Yeah, so they knew our success with High Five for Supplies. And so then what else did they say, though? It wasn't just we want to do this.
They were like, yeah, so you'll come back next year and you'll do High Five for Supplies and you'll do a Guinness World Record. They're like, yeah, it'll be super fun, super easy. Like, just come back in a year. And we were kind of like, okay.
Now, this I remember. I remember talking to Lou around the time of the preparation for the Guinness record.
Yeah. And yeah, like Mandy's saying, I think in every one of those meetings, we were just like, yeah, of course we can do this.
We were just kind of going around. We were like, okay, sure, you're at the mall. We can do that.
Yeah, we talk a lot on the show about our crack team of researchers. I think Simon Says Give occasionally will be like, yeah, we'll talk to our entire team about it. And we're all at the table at the moment.
Right. Yeah.
We do have a countless army of volunteers and a ton of people that contribute in so many amazing ways. But it's funny being in those meetings. They're like, yeah, so you'll set a Guinness World Record, and we just all poker face. Yeah, that's no problem. We're just starting the planning 6 months ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
Well, and on that, so it was 2017 is when we had the birthday celebration as well as High Five for Supplies. And I think it took me an entire year to recover from such craziness because it was a lot. And so we had to go. We did talk to them. They said we'd love to partner with you, do a Guinness World Record, and we said yes, absolutely. But then also behind the scenes, we're like, okay, we need to find some funders because one of our large funders had kind of decided to go different ways in 2017. So for 2018 for Guinness World Record. And so I set kind of a magic date in my mind to say, okay, if we have enough funds to go do what we need to do to successfully do a Guinness World Record, we'll say yes. And we went on spring break in March, and I think April 1st was our go or no-go day.
Yeah.
And magically you got a phone call from somebody who found us on social media. And so I don't know if you want us to start talking about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, jump in because, I did want to talk a little bit about, one of the things that powers this gigantic network of volunteers is, let me back up and say, it's first and foremost Mandy and Dina here, and the story that is built, and how inspiring it is for people to want to be a part of it, and mission driven. And these two ladies here are just so incredible, and people are attracted and want to be a part of this. But one of the other things that powers just the messaging there is frankly evergreen, and how successfully we've been able to apply it for now years, and how it frees up what, like I talk about, we have so many systems in place that we have to be incredibly efficient if we're going to keep up this number of getting the donations of, north of 90 cents reaching these kids in need. Things like Evergreen help us free up the time for the most important parts. And just amazingly, like Dina was just saying, Mandy got a phone call as a result of finding this amazing organization that wanted to do something special.
Yeah, it was amazing. We were on spring break, kind of just hanging out, and we got a phone call, and I don't know, I think we were like, oh, okay, like, talk to you, like, tomorrow or, like, in an hour or something, and we were just kind of like, what is this phone call about? We were kind of like, oh, they found us. It's probably not anything too large. It's a big company, but they probably just want to see, like, what we're about and just see, like, what we do. And so we went through with the call, and I think we're on, like, 2 different phones sitting, like, at different tables, like, across from each other. And we were on the phone, and they kept talking to us, and they're like, and they kept talking to us, and we were like, wow, these guys are, like, really interested in us, like, and what we do. And they're talking about how they do, like,
millions.
Millions of dollars of donations, like, a year in different organizations all around the world. And so we were, like, super excited about them. We're like, oh my gosh, like, this is great.
Yeah, I'd say at this point, I just to interject, sorry to interrupt, but I'd say we chased dozens of kind of big donors for years. We were very fortunate to have the donor that we did for a couple of years, who understandably wanted to contribute to a bunch of different organizations. But at that point, we didn't know what we were going to do, and we had been like getting people to volunteer for grant writing, which is a gigantic challenge, as we've learned. Driving a bunch of relationships and trying to capitalize off of them. And here we have almost a donor pursuing us.
Right. Oh, totally pursuing us. Yeah.
We've had other donors do similar things, but nobody that's telling us they have millions of dollars that they donate every year.
Yeah.
Right?
It was insane. And we just kept like hearing about like all the stuff that they do, and we're just kind of like, okay, so maybe they're interested in us. Like, I don't know if they want to get involved right away, or if this is something they're looking for more like in a year or two. And then at the end of our call, the lady we were talking to goes, so I want you to submit something for like $100,000 or
no. So at first, she said, typically we do $25,000 is what we have people ask for. And so Mandy, the reason we were on 2 different phone calls is because it's not about me pitching, it's Mandy pitching. So I wanted to make sure she heard you loud and clear on the phone, and so you and Amy talked through it. And Amy started off with $25,000, and by the time she ended the phone call with you, she asked you to ask for $50,000 in the grant that you were submitting. And so we did get that pretty quickly. So that was MoneyGram Foundation is our title sponsor of our Guinness World Record for 2018. And then they partnered with us again in 2019, and we're working on 2020.
And the record, just for the lunatics, the record is for what record did you set or break? Or set and break.
I don't believe there was actually, we kind of had to go back and forth with Guinness because there wasn't really a record set for it, or it was kind of a loose record. So we ended up asking for a record?
No, so there was a record, but so how they work, so there's lots of complications on, there's lots of rules. So there had been a Guinness World Record set, so the hour piece matters. And so we broke a Guinness World Record for stuffing more than 8,000 backpacks in an 8-hour period of time. So we had to select, do you want to do it in an 8-hour, 12-hour period of time? Do you remember how many we did?
I always get the number wrong, but I think it's 8,148.
Yeah,
Okay.
8,148 backpacks stuffed
In 8 hours.
in less than 8 hours.
In like 3 hours and like
24
or
minutes,
something like
exactly.
that.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
we've talked about
Yeah,
this.
it went so fast.
I mentioned it
That's
already,
crazy.
but one of our biggest problems, and I think
Yep.
that we had already known this, but we didn't realize until that day how big of a problem it was, because not only did we finish 5.5 hours early, but we had people coming for 5 hours. And sorry, what I meant to say is not only did we finish 5.5 hours early, but we actually cleaned up the entire
Space.
space
And
The
too.
rotunda, yeah.
The rotunda was clean for like the last
I
3.5 hours. So
Oh,
there were
wow.
volunteers coming because
And
they had
it's
picked
like,
a window
what do we
in the
do?
afternoon. And, that seems like a really good problem to have. But, it occurred to us that it was actually a really we were creating a bad experience for some
Yeah.
of these volunteers showing up because they
They
were showing
wanted
up.
to be a part of it.
They were giving up part of their day with their,
Yep.
children showing up and wanting to contribute.
Yep.
So this year, we don't need to get into the details, but we ended up, putting a little bit more of a throttle on how it worked and
Yeah.
made it work a little bit better.
Yeah, our DJ Jen, who we've had for 5 years, got a little worried because she didn't see as many volunteers, like maybe more early on, and was starting to recruit people from the mall, and which was fine. But we're like, Jen, we got this. Like, we know who's
Yeah.
strategically coming every hour,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, this year it worked out awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to say, too, that, heading into this thing with Guinness, I'd say that none of us really had an idea of how thorough it is.
So,
Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
really thought somebody shows up and it's like, oh, neat, there's another checkbox, and
Yeah,
we'll
it's-
put it on the website. But they vet every organization, they
Yeah.
vet the event, they put a ton of effort into it.
yeah.
So
And like our nonprofit partners, our backpacks had to be out within 24 hours of the end of the event, I believe it was.
Yep.
Had to be out like as in distributed?
They had to be
Yeah.
in
Into
their
the
hands.
nonprofits.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we had to
So-
show time records of all of that.
Wow.
Every backpack had to be,
Yeah.
so they didn't have to have like the exact, they didn't have to be the same notebook, but they had to have a notebook. Like all the supplies, everything had to be uniform, had to match. We had an
Yeah.
official who came in from Guinness to be our judge, but then we also had independent witnesses that had to check every
Yeah.
single backpack. There was a tremendous amount
We had to
of
count every single backpack that was going through the lines to get an exact number.
Mm-hmm.
We had to count every single backpack that was going out to the nonprofit partners. We had to we had to give them like a sheet of like recognition from like the nonprofit partners that they picked up their backpacks. Like
Yeah.
we had to have
Unbelievable.
everything.
So the couple things that really struck me there was, kind of Dina mentioned it, and I'm mentioning the details, but yeah, they fly in an adjudicator
Yep.
who could not have been more
She was so
professional
awesome.
and
Yeah, she's
enthusiastic about the entire event. So while she probably spends her entire career just watching people do this stuff, it really felt like she was watching the first world record that she had ever set.
Yeah,
was
it was
awesome.
amazing. She
So
was awesome.
there was that, and then secondarily, I did not expect to see the the marketing opportunity kind of behind it.
Right.
They kind of prepped us for it, and they said that you guys are going to get a bunch of press out of it, and we were like, hopefully we can leverage it. But I think we were all kind of like, it'll be neat, but we're not really expecting much.
Right.
Yeah.
But having the Guinness World Record listed on the website and seeing the press kind of go crazy for it, it was just an incredible experience end to end. That
And, like,
kind of was unexpected.
What's funny is we didn't get a whole lot of like interviews and that sort of thing last year because they were kind of just like they were kind of cautious, I think, about it as to like, oh, like will it really happen? Like blah
Sure.
blah blah. But this year we had a lot of like news people reaching out to us and being like, hey, like your organization's amazing, and they're kind of like, you did a Guinness World Record last year. And so even this year we had a ton of news people reach out to us.
Yeah.
And like we did have people pitching it from the mall, like because they do that every year for us.
Right.
But this year we had so many because they were just like, you did a Guinness World Record, like this is like so amazing, like blah blah blah, like your past is like amazing, and it's just funny how it like added up and
Yeah.
like I feel like I personally didn't really see like the end like marketing kind of thing, because I kind of thought like, oh, just kind of like a little year, because we had different years where we had a lot of coverage, and so I think it was just sort of different for us,
Sure.
especially being at the mall. And then this year was kind of crazy to see like all these like news people going like, you had a Guinness World
Right.
Record, like
Yep.
ah.
Yeah, and there's a hefty fee to
There
have
is,
a
yeah.
Guinness World Record. And so how we keep that 92 cents going to the kids is we had 2 organizations that underwrote 100% of the Guinness World Record.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that it did not take away from the funds that would go then to the backpacks and school supplies to make sure that those dollars were captured.
Yeah.
Those beer people, they're always after your money.
Exactly.
Well, that's a really good transition into what, the reason I wanted you guys in here is I just want the world to know about Simon Says Give, and if you're out there looking to make a contribution, and you want every dollar to go to work, we'd love to have your donation, and it's easy to find us. We're at simonsaysgive.org and facebook.com/simonsaysgive. Donating to us on Facebook is probably the best way to do it, because Facebook actually eats the fees for us.
Yeah.
So they actually cover the credit card fees, which if you're involved in any sort of nonprofit, the other thing that I wanted to mention is, as you listen to this story, hopefully in the back of your head, you're thinking about, what is it about Simon Says Give that they're able to accomplish what they have? And I'd say there's we could have a 4.5-hour conversation about that. But if you can take away anything up till this point, try to find systems that make things obviously really efficient, which I think, nonprofits are doing all the time.
Right.
You have a great story.
Yep.
And, bring in and try to cherish those people that are doing the absolute best, because they're going to start attracting more amazing people to do the same thing, because we've had countless people contribute in so many amazing ways that are still with us or have moved on, for whatever reason. But there's that. And, I have to say, Facebook is an amazing, amazing tool for nonprofits that I think still to this day is really underutilized. And I was just talking to a nonprofit employee a week ago, and they had no idea that Facebook will take your contributions or take contributions on your behalf and cover the credit card fees.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'll say that person works for a tech company and works for the nonprofit on the side. So this person is like technically very savvy, is on Facebook all the time, and had no clue. And their business deliberately helps nonprofits.
Wow.
So for him to not be aware of it, I'm guessing there's a ton of people listening that don't, because I think the last time we checked, not including the fundraising that we specifically did on Facebook, and I'm sure everybody's familiar with this, you as an individual can start a birthday fundraiser on behalf of a nonprofit of your choosing. Hopefully you'll be choosing Simon Says Give after this episode. But the credit card fees are paid by Facebook in those events. And last year, and up until now, we've not done really a good job
pushing it,
despite the fact that birthdays are part of our DNA. So we have not.
And you have many of them.
I have a birthday.
Yes, you do.
Hundreds of them. You can start this birthday fundraiser. And last year, we had, I think, north of $20,000 raised.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know the exact number, but it was at least that. And that was probably our first big year, because that started maybe the year before. And we had a couple. And then like the people that are on our team, people that started to know about us would do it. Some people had some competitions around their birthday. So that was also really just kind of us, doing it for the organization. And it's so easy. It takes 2 seconds to set up. And then, that's people still like to send checks in to nonprofits because they don't like those credit card fees. But you don't have to worry about that on the Facebook page.
Wow.
Yeah. And Mandy's giggling here because the competition we're talking about is Mandy's dad and I had a competition right around my birthday, my actual birthday.
Both of our December birthdays.
Both of our December birthdays. That thankfully, with Dina's donation to my fundraising effort, I was able to defeat her husband in our little competition. But I have to say, Facebook has been integral to our journey.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, first and foremost, it's about Dina and Mandi and the mission that Mandi has put together for us here. But man, Facebook, if you can get out there and start utilizing the tools for a nonprofit, I really, really encourage you to dig deeply into it.
Yeah, and even so, like with Evergreen, we've got photos now. We've got 8 years of photos of birthdays and backpacks, and so it's super fun because there's some that are curated that just pop up. And I think one today or yesterday popped up, and it was you, Mandi, with our first High Five for Supplies boxes, and you're all of 8-9 years old, and it's just so fun to see the past.
It is. So that's like one of the super fun things that we have yet to talk about with Evergreen is sometimes there's this discovery component of content that you've completely forgotten about and that you yourself as the publisher get to enjoy.
Yes.
And, with Simon Says Give, I get to see the posts in my feed every day and I love them, and especially that like older stuff. So, well, the last couple like brief things that I want to talk about today is I think the common theme here as I talk about how to make your nonprofit, or if you're aspiring to create a nonprofit, Simon Says Give is one to, I hope that you would model it after, given how well and efficient we've been over the years. But, I think it's in Dina's DNA to really do these super unstoppable things all the time. And it's just part of, like I said, her DNA, to the point where she wrote a book. And
I've always observed, Lou, that you can't spell Dina without DNA.
There you go.
There it is. And, with Dina's book, which is available just on your website now because it's been sold out in the other places, but at simonsayslead.com, Dina's first and actual career, Simon Says Give is...
My volunteer passion.
Yeah. But if you go to simonsayslead.com, you can pick up her book, Make Unstoppable Simple. And I'm not here to promote the book as much as I am to tell you that like Dina is amazing, and to hear her story, which she talks about how she's overcome a ton of stuff to get to the point where she's at. I'd really recommend you go check out that and, use it as some sort of template for whether you're just trying to overcome some things in your life or maybe start your own nonprofit and help a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we do. The book is my personal journey, but it's also the journey on starting up Simon Says Give and some of the things that we went through to be unstoppable in creating the organization.
Awesome.
This is cool. It's not often, Lou, that I'm rendered speechless, and it's less often than that when I'm kind of enjoying it. But today was one of those days. I really appreciated it, knowing just through osmosis, really, about Simon Says Give. It was just a real treat to get to meet you guys.
Awesome. Well, maybe we'll see you next July to pack some backpacks.
Well, you probably will. And my birthday is October 31st, so maybe a little birthday
challenge.
There
we go. I love it.
Little birthday challenge.
Especially Halloween.
Yeah, here we go. So, I know that this episode wasn't nearly as campy as our episodes are, but I hope that, like I said, I wanted Dina and Mandi to come in here, not just because I wanted to share the story and hopefully get you, the listener, excited about Simon Says Give, but hopefully you're inspired, to contribute and, support Simon Says Give financially or with your time. Dina loves to say time, talent, or treasure. But, we'd love to see other people out there doing similar things.
Yeah, absolutely.
To the point where that's actually happening now. So some of the kids that we've supported over the years have come back and volunteered, which I just got chills even just saying that. But I hope you're listening, thinking about how you can do these things for your organization too, and apply those things. And if you've got questions, Mandi, Dina, I am all very, very accessible. Reach out if you've got questions and how we might be able to help you. So
info@simonsaysgive.org is the email that we would we would gladly answer any questions.
Yeah, happily.
Cool.
So
thank you. This was amazing.
Yeah. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I think you did great.
You guys did great. I'm just here to elevate what I think is an amazing family and a duo here. So I've told you 1 million times already how grateful and blessed I feel to be even tangentially associated with Simon Says Give, let alone to be a big part of it. So thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. With that, it feels a little weird to just be like, I'm Hot Lou. But,
I'm Silent Mike.
thanks, Silent Mike, and the now 5 hot mics that we have in the room, unusually. But again, one last time, thank you so much, Mandi, for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dina, for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
I am your host of the Hot Lou Show, Hot Lou.
And I'm still Silent Mike.
Talk to you next Tuesday.